Welcome back to the Jury House podcast. I'm Noah Massey,
And I'm Danielle.
and we are here to talk about week 4 of Big Brother 3. It is a season that just keeps ramping up. I personally am really enjoying where we're going here with the season. Jimmy, how are you feeling about
So
things?
same, the same no. And literally the very first thing that I wrote is the announcer is starting to grow on me.
Yeah.
Literally the first thing I wrote about this episode, I was like, the announcer is starting to grow on me. And I was like, and I just had to tell you that. But I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying it.
It's yeah, I enjoy this announcer so much more than the one that we have. I like that I'm not being shouted at, you know.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It and it's got more of that documentary kind of narrator feel to it, which
It does.
I'm enjoying a lot.
I think what really irritated me originally, though, is just him doing the explaining of what the show was. And
Right.
so it really sounded like the Twilight Zone, and I was just like, it annoyed the crap out of me. Oh, it annoyed me. But I'm coming around. I'm coming around. You won me over.
Very nice, very nice. And in terms of the events of the week, do you feel like you're in a similar mindset to where I'm at?
I don't know where you are. Where are you on it?
I'm in. I mean, that is mainly what I'm enjoying. I feel like the strategy and the events of how the game is moving is kind of it's keeping my interest, and I think we're in an interesting part of the season here.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're there together on that one because I I I know we left off. I was like, I had no idea what the hell Gerry was about to do, but I'm kind of going through this. Yeah, I agree. I am definitely more invested. I am more invested. I am still rooting for Jason. However, no matter what, right now, I am still rooting for him, even though nothing really kind of happened in this week for him. But I'm still rooting for him. But yeah, I'm more invested. Yeah, they got my attention. Like I'm into the game. Yeah, I'm into the game.
Okay, all righty. Um, well, then let's get into it. We open this week with the aftermath of Amy's eviction. It is something that Marcellus, in particularly, is having a hard time with. He opens the episode by saying, Amy has been the most fun part of my stay here. And I wrote next to that, really,
Like
Marcellus?
really.
Really? Because
Yeah.
it didn't seem like you were having much fun with her last week.
But they were just bantering. Remember, they were just,
That
yeah,
that is right.
some
That
bull.
is
It was
right.
some bull, is what it was.
So I believe that Amy went out the door by a unanimous vote, and we
Yes.
get a diary room from Jason where he says, to the world, it probably looks like we ganged up on her.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of an interesting comment because a lot of times we don't see the house guests really thinking about what the perspective from the audience viewpoint is going to be.
Mm. You
And
mean in this season or in general?
in general, I feel like the house guests don't normally kind of um, talk about how they think things might be being perceived by the
Yeah.
audience. They talk about it a little bit on the live feeds, but I don't think we've ever gotten something like this directly to us on the show.
Yeah, especially not for season three. I agree with you on that because at this point, I mean, hell, everything that they've been doing, you would think that there were no damn cameras in the in the house at all. At least for most of them. And so, yeah, you're right. This, yeah, and I remember him saying that, but it just didn't have as big of an impact. It did like it went in and went out. But I do remember him hearing him say that. Hmm.
That's interesting that you say that because somebody posted on Reddit a link to the original Big Brother website that was up for the first ever season of Big Brother. And
Hmm.
on that website, there is an interview with one of the producers from the original season of Big Brother that basically said that was kind of the basis for what they wanted Big Brother to be. They wanted to make sure that they were getting very live reactions from the house guests, very authentic reactions. They didn't
Mm.
want them to act like there were cameras um, that
Everywhere.
were following them around. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit that was a different um, executive producing team for the first season than we get here in Big Brother 3. But I think that they're kind of producing the show with a similar sentiment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then we get a couple of other DRs here. We get something from Gerry saying all the evictions have been hard, but it was difficult watching her leave. And then we get a DR from Chiara saying that she left with only friends and no enemies. And um, yeah, so there's definitely a lot about these house guests really trying to kind of rehab their image to the audience there, which I think is interesting. And of course, Amy is going to be part of that audience as she'll be able to watch the episodes from home or
Oh
was.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Hmm. I forgot. I did.
It
I did.
that's like I said, that's a very interesting component to the season. That the edit absolutely matters just as much as any move
Absolutely.
or anything that you're saying in the house.
Um,
How they choose to portray you on the show is something that I think plays a big part in the game as we kind of move along here.
yeah, yeah. And actually, something came up. I think in the next episode that I'll bring up then. But yeah, and I feel like I say it on every time we record. Like editing, editing is something serious. Like they can make you a damn good villain, or like a great hero, and it's just wow. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. You're right. Editing. It's on the editing.
Yeah, and even with the villains, a lot of times, as long as they like you, they can
Hmm.
make it a fun villain edit. But if they don't like you, they
Hmm.
will absolutely bury you. So
Demolish it. Yep.
so we get a lot of that talk there. We get Jason basically saying that he thinks that Marcellus really trusts all of them now because it was a
Hmm.
unanimous vote. Of course, Marcellus says, I don't trust
Yeah.
anybody.
Any of them. Yeah. Yeah.
So that is really interesting. And then
Why
yeah,
is that interesting? Why?
I mean, it's not that interesting.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Because I was like, I thought I had missed something, but because I do remember him saying that, and also because he's just like you guys want to be gone, like the first
Right,
week for no reason, and so like
right.
all of a sudden now, yeah. So yeah, but I am glad to hear him say he does not trust him, and so I thought you had some more context as to why you
No,
thought it was
no,
interesting. Sorry,
no. I
I
have
didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
no more context there. Um, Uh, what is interesting is that we do get a DR from Danielle where she does this countdown where she says 3 down, 7 more to go. And
Hmm.
so this kind of tells you kind of how she is seeing the game. This is not something that we have seen from other house guests up to this point here. And so I did think that that was interesting because essentially you're treating these house guests like they are
Numbers.
numbers. And in a season where that has not been the narrative, where it's been more about people's character and stuff. That's an interesting comment, I think.
Hmm. You know how I feel about Danielle.
I do. I absolutely. I know. I know. So basically, we know at this point that Gerry is the HOH. We get the HOH room reveal, and everybody comes in to see his room. We see here that Josh is kind of starting to suck up to Gerry a little bit. He's definitely making himself comfy in the HOH room, and that's something
Hmm.
that people like Roddy really
Roddy.
start picking up on.
Hmm.
And he says to Danielle later, he's like, yeah, did you see that? Last week he was so comfortable calling him a Nazi all week, and now
Hmm.
he's like sidling up to him. It's pathetic.
So okay, so like, is this a good strategy for Josh? Because I agree with Roddy. Because but I feel like Josh is. I mean, which in one hand, I mean, hell, you're the head of household. Of course, everybody's trying to kiss butt. Nobody wants to go home. But Josh definitely takes a lot of things to the extreme, and so I guess like, is this a really good strategy for him?
So, I think when you have this certain perception in the house of like people don't like you, I think you got to start kissing some ass a little bit. We saw last week that he kind of went on a little bit of an apology tour, so like anything you
Oh
can do to
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
reiterate like, hey, I'm not a bad guy here. It I agree with you that this is very fake, and I think it definitely is something that Gerry sees through, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a bad move. Uh, it's just something that it's like too little, too late,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But it's kind of the only move that
That
he's
he
got
has.
at this point.
Good point. Good point.
And Josh says, I need Gerry on my side. If he doesn't keep his word to me, then I'm gonna be out. So he knows what it is that he has to do. And Gerry, to his credit, also understands that. He says, Josh needs me right now. I understand that he's gonna get me when he can, so I just have to make sure
He did say
that I
that.
get him first. Yeah.
He did. He did. He did. He did.
So
Yeah.
he sees it, but I will give Gerry credit this week that he it's that thing we've been talking about with Gerry the whole time of no permanent allies, no
Mm,
permanent enemies. And
yeah.
to his credit, he does understand that this is a game and that there has to be strategy beyond, oh, this person annoys me. You
Yeah.
have to look at where the optimal moves are. So
I will say I'm very glad that he got the head of household this week. I am equally glad that he is playing it in the way that he's playing it. Like, we are actually seeing game play and strategy, and not just, oh, the house doesn't like you, or like, let's gang up against you for no reason or whatever, or fictitious reason. And so I'm really happy to see the way he's playing the game. So I'm glad you brought that up. Is why I'm thinking of it.
um yeah, so we basically get a conversation between Josh and Gerry where Josh tells Gerry, there's this foursome. They're going to make all kinds of deals with you. So you got to be wary of that. We have this group of four, the couples that are really shaking in their boots. They are like not happy about it, and they are like, if he knows not to go after us, because if he does, then he's gone next week. The only one that's going to be on his side is Marcellus, and it's that typical um it's that typical thing of you've been in power for so long that the minute
Mm-hmm.
that you're not in power, somehow it's like, oh, the bad people have won. We're the
Mm-hmm.
good, righteous people, and
Mm-hmm.
now the power has been taken away from us.
Yeah, crazy and delusional. It's delusional. It is freaking. I mean, we talked about it last week regarding getting rid of the couples, and how Amy and Marcellus was a duo, and so I'm just like, it's if you're looking at the game, like you have to be stupid if you don't understand. Like one of you guys have to be split up. One of the pairs have to be split. It's a must. So otherwise, you're just gonna ride each other's coattails until the end. And like, who wants that if anybody else is on the outside looking in? It's just silly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. If I was one of those two couples, I would be throwing the other couple under the
I'm
bus.
just like, get quick, quickly.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, that is not what they do. It's more about like, don't get rid of me, get rid of the other person that I'm on the block next to, rather than saying, hey, you should actually be going after these people. So, what is also interesting is that at the same time that we have the foursome kind of worried that they are going to be targeted, we also have Jason and Danielle worried that Jason will be going up on the block and will be targeted by Gerry. And yeah, so we have that interesting situation, and we have a situation where Danielle is also trying to solidify her relationships with the women and kind of protect that piece because she realizes that basically there's three women left, and if they're not careful they will be picked off one by
One by
one.
one.
So
Mm-hmm.
she's really gunning for a man to go this week.
Which is fair, and I think it's smart. It needs to happen at this point in the game.
So then we have Chiara recount that conversation that she has with Danielle, where Danielle is saying, hey, the women need to protect each other. And in that situation, I think Roddy's starting to get a little bit nervous. He
Mm-hmm.
goes to Gerry to basically kind of recount what he has learned, and he says to Gerry, "Hey, like if somebody like Kiara has to go up and she has to go, like I mean, the game."
Yeah, because he said I'm attracted to her and all, but if she has to go, she has to go. I was like, that is crazy. But Eric said the same thing about Lisa.
Yep.
So yeah,
y-
loyalty.
Yeah, loyalty is not to be found here, yeah, a lot of times we have these really strong showmances that are like, we are gonna it's us against the house, and in this situation it's like, hey,
Like
it's
she
a
has to go.
game.
She has to go. It's a game. It's a game. I thought it was funny.
um yeah, so then we get a bunch of different fluff segments here. We get a sunbathing segment here, very sexy,
Very, very.
very tittillating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what they're going for with these types of things. Not doing too much for me. So,
It was
eh,
amusing for like the quick second, but I was just like, "What the hell is happening? Like, what's the point here? Like, what? You guys had nothing else to do. There was nothing else you could shoot, but
hey, yeah, apparently not. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. But I mean, they do start finding other ways to entertain themselves. They create a new game called Duck Ball.
Huh.
They take all of the rubber ducks that Marcellus has brought into the house and create a new game where they are trying to throw some ducks into a bucket,
A
and
bucket? Yeah.
there, yeah, there's a point system. There's additional ducks you can get. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be the next Olympic sport, but
I
yeah,
vote no.
yeah, I hear you. But hey, I mean, they do spend a lot of time sunbathing, so I'm glad that they got a little bit creative here.
Sure. Hmm.
Yeah, then we basically have a
Oh yeah.
segment about the men and their
Yes.
various
Ugh.
grooming habits. Uh, it's I don't know. I never know how to talk about these things because it's just like nothing that relates to me in any way. And so I'm just kind of like, I mean, I take care of myself, but I'm not going all out. So
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm stuck. And I think Danielle actually said it best. You guys are strangers. Like we're strangers in this house, and
right,
you're this comfortable already doing this with each other. This is just nasty. And I for me, it was nasty. I could never see myself doing that. Nevertheless, with a stranger. But just yeah, there was just too much going on. Going yeah. So I call this the nasty segment. Is what I said. The nasty grooming segment.
there you go, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do get some commentary from Josh because once the guys start doing face masks,
Oh yeah.
he's gotta poke at their masculinity, and
Masculinity. Hmm.
but I do enjoy that Jason said, I think that he's just not as secure in
Yes.
his masculinity as we are. So
He did say that. Which
so
is probably some truth to that, at least to a
yeah,
degree. Yeah, because you don't say things like that unless you're feeling threatened or something. So
absolutely. So good on Jason there. So I will say, in terms of the fluff segments that we get, one of the more notable ones is this segment between Eric and Lisa where they are making out, and in the middle of making out, Eric says hi to her, and
yeah.
she is just smitten. I mean,
Is
her
that what she is?
she's
Oh,
something's happening here. I mean,
oh,
she's getting all hot and bothered. I mean, it's yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah.
that's not your thing,
Well, I'm not even going to say that because I literally had this conversation yesterday with Winston, and I'm like, I get what she was trying to say,
right?
but how she articulated it was just stupid. It was just stupid. Because on one hand, like, cause if you have a very close connection with someone like your spouse or whatever, and you haven't connected in a while or you haven't seen each other in a while, that moment when you finally, and that's actually probably with anybody, when somebody truly sees you, like the you behind the you, and you're just like, hello, like I see you. And like that's an emotional bond, that's an emotional connection. But this dumbass girl, you know, it's been my dream. I've always wanted someone to stop in the middle of kissing me to say hello. Like, girl, stop. Just stop. just, just stop. just, I was like, I get what she was trying to do. It did not land. It didn't. And even with Eric was just like, what? Like, are you serious? Like, what? Huh? Like, what's happening? Like, wait a minute. So yeah, bless her heart. I'm gonna do the Amy Southern thing. Just bless her heart.
Bless her heart. I hear you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think what she was trying to say, the idea behind it was more profound than how it actually came out here.
Okay. Mhm.
But yeah, it's I hope that wherever Lisa is today, that her man is saying hi to her in
I hope
heaven
so. I hope so. I hope for her sake.
and not trying to throw her under the bus.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Hopefully.
but that is not the only romance that is budding in the house, as we get a bonding segment between Eric and Roddy
Yes.
where they're working out, they're making fun of the gym bros.
Yes.
I actually thought it was a pretty funny impression that Roddy was doing. It made me wonder if this is the reason why he doesn't like Italians. So,
That with the Boston ordeal or whatever he was doing,
yeah,
the
he was
accent.
like, those Boston, like, Italian guys.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. It was a nice segment to watch that between the guys, the bros, and so that was fun. I kind of enjoyed it. I did write it down. I mentioned it, so but I did kind of enjoy it. That was fun to see at least a different side of both of them, and so that was fun. Aside from their women in the house, because that was just
right.
ridiculous.
It was interesting to me because I very much think of the two of them as gym bros.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was interesting to see how they think a
Hmm.
gym bro acts. Um, so there you go.
Yeah.
Thankfully, thankfully, after this string of fluff segments here, we get what we really all came here for, and that is another food competition.
So here for it. So and then
Right.
it's for P. It's the loser gets PB and J yet again. Yet again. Like, can we give them something else? Like, come on, like, please. Like, I hate peanut butter. Like, do something else. Like, ham and cheese, or just bread. Do just bread. Like,
Right. There's some things that Big Brother will spend a lot of money on, and food just isn't it.
mm-mm. We find that out in the last episode, which I'm going to go crazy about. But go ahead. On them
Okay.
spending their money habits.
Okay. It might be the same thing that I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure.
basically, for this food competition, we've got two players going head to head. There's a food that is placed in front of them, like, liver or olives, and
Mhm.
they basically have to wager how many pieces of that food they can eat in, I think, 2 minutes. And then the first team to 3 points ends up winning food for the week, with the losers on the PB&J diet. This is a very gross segment. It's not very fun to watch.
I thought
think
you loved the food competitions.
I mean, this one is entertaining because it reminds me of Survivor, because Survivor
Hmm. Hmm.
used to do immunity challenges where they would have them eat, like, the delicacy of
Of the
whatever country they were in.
hmm.
Um, so this one is fine, but I don't need to see Marcellus almost throw up. Like,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
I I was not really wanting to see that.
But I think he was being dramatic because honestly, because they had Twinkies,
Right,
olives, and like you said, the gizzards and stuff. Like these are things that people actually eat.
right.
It wasn't stupid stuff. Like this is food. So I was like, I found that part. I'm like, it really wasn't that bad. I'm like, it really wasn't. And even another thing I would say I loved about this competition, and even though I know they could not do it, but the male versus female thing. So that was obviously out of the window. It was what I think red versus blue. And so I'm like, I was really glad to see that for this go around because ordinarily it would have definitely been woman versus man for whatever reason. So, and then the Twinkies. I mean, who doesn't love Twinkies? Who doesn't love Twinkies? So,
That is very, very true. Have you ever had a Twinkie wiener sandwich?
no, actually, I probably would because I would think like the saltiness of the wiener plus the Twinkie and the sweetness probably would be really really good. I'm assuming it's like a fair food or something.
Yeah, I have heard it's very good. I have not tried it myself,
Oh,
but I have heard it is very, very good.
yeah, I would try
Yeah.
that.
So basically, what we get there is, I think, the blue team actually ends up winning. That is, Marcellus wins it for them after he makes that valiant sacrifice there, and you know, then we got the red team on PB&J. Danielle is none too pleased about
At
that
all,
because she
at all.
hates peanut butter.
She hates to
Um,
lose.
that too. That very much plays into what you were saying last week about Danielle loves to win. So after that food competition, we jump to another Eric sleep talking segment, and this one kind of freaked me out. I saw what
Really?
Lisa. Well, because the guy's literally like he's like literally getting out of bed and like pointing. You know,
Oh, I
he
didn't know he got out of bed. I didn't know he got out of
well
bed.
he was like he was laying down and then he gets up a little bit and he starts pointing and is like just talking to himself and
Oh,
so I thought that was a little weird when if someone's moving around that much while they're also talking
sleep.
in their sleep, that's a little weird to me. And then what I thought was interesting is he makes a comment in his sleep about it doesn't mean anything, it was just dancing. And that made me think if he was having a dream about someone else.
Probably so. He has a girlfriend at home. Remember?
That is
So
yeah,
you know. So he very well could have been. Very well could have been.
what a
But
player.
it, complete. But so
Yeah.
it freaks Lisa out, right? And so she runs. I know she was running scared or whatever. And oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm so sick of the two of them. I literally wrote down, I was like, this is just too much nonsense for me. Like, I'm sick of the two of them. Like, I am so sick of them that it's ridiculous. But yeah, yeah. But anyway, she gets up, runs away from the bed. He chases her,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, which I'm sure is another one of her fantasies. But
Right.
so they smooth that over, and she gets back in bed with him. Just
Right?
yeah.
He's such a Prince Charming. He goes
So
over and consoles her and makes sure that she's okay, doing the bare fucking minimum, but
bare minimum.
always
Thank you. Thank you for saying it. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Man.
sadly with the other showmance in the house, there is a bit
Mhm.
of trouble in paradise there as we get a DR from Chiara where she's like, everything is great. And this cuts to Roddy and Josh talking, and Roddy realizes that he has no idea what Chiara's last name is.
What? Like you? How many weeks has it been? How many
It's
weeks has
been a
it
month.
been? But okay. It should have at least come up by now.
Yeah,
It should have at least come up. But even if you did not remember it, like okay, like it's not like you mentioned her last name every week or every day. Like you probably would not remember her last name, which is it should be. I don't want to say a red flag for her, but it should be like okay, we're still dating.
right.
Like we're still dating. We're not even. Like this is still new. It's still fresh. But no, she's upset.
No, I was totally on her side about this.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
because who if I'm dating someone and it's been a month, like I
Yeah.
get you're not like talking about it every day. I get this is a different situation where like it's not like you're in her house every day
Yeah.
looking at her mail, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, you would you would come across somebody's last name more in their
Multiple times. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, in that situation than here. But I don't know. Something didn't sit right with me there. It's like that to because to me that just shows disinterest, and
Mm.
that's just kind of piling on the red flags here.
That's a good point.
And then what ends up happening? So Josh tries to figure out what Kiara's last name is, but he asks while he's literally sitting next to
Yeah.
Roddy, so she knows immediately what's going on here. They do have that argument, and
Hmm.
then we have a situation where later Kiara calls Roddy by the wrong name, and
Hmm.
that kind of makes Roddy feel like
A little.
vindicated.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So then both him and Josh are gaslighting her into basically apologizing to him, even though
To
he's the
him,
one that started this whole thing.
and never did even admit that was the red flag for me regarding to Roddy, because he never admitted that it was him that did not know her last name
Right.
the entire time. Like, he was allowing Josh to kind of go through, and still, they, like you said, they gaslit her to still apologizing. So yeah, I have a problem with Roddy at this point.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that kind of behavior. If you're in the wrong, then you don't pretend like you're the victim. It
Hmm.
you don't pretend like oh, what they did was so much worse, or it doesn't make my thing seem as bad
Seen
now.
this. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
hers was a slip of the tongue. His was not remembering a very important fact
Pardon.
about her, but oh well.
Exactly.
So then we finally get some strategy here. We get a conversation with Gerry and Marcellus where they're talking about how the girls want to go after Josh, and that is why he wants to go after them. And yeah, I didn't have much there.
It wasn't a lot. The only thing I will say, Jerry, he kind of rubbed me the wrong way with this conversation,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you remember it or not, because Jerry was talking to Marcellus about Danielle specifically, and how she has the mother thing, the mother connection with him, with
Mhm.
Jerry, and
Right.
then she has the ghetto connection with
Oh,
Marcellus. I was like, what the fuck? Like, who, what? Like, who says that? Like, who says something like that? And so that took me off guard. Like, that put me off guard for a second. I was like, Jerry, like, come on now. Wait a minute, Jerry. Like, what's the ghetto thing, Jerry? Like, what is this? I need you to elaborate. So that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Sorry. So I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah. It's very much giving off that like older guy that says like I have a black friend, so then they think
Yes.
that they can
Yes.
say all this
Yeah. Uh-huh. Hmm.
stupid shit.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of the vibe that and I think he literally says that. Like he says,
Did he?
no, he says in an earlier episode that he has like a black
Oh,
nephew
he
or
did.
something.
He did. He did. And gay friends. You're right. He did.
Right.
He did. He did. He sure did. When he had his epiphany.
Yep.
Yep, he did. You're right. But anyway, and I guess I forgot. I really forgot. And even just now, like the beginning of this show, the taping of this episode, like I told you, like I was interested and really enjoying how he was playing the game, and so I really this piece, like I forgot him as the person. you know. And
Right.
so, again, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm enjoying how he's playing the game in this moment, but I don't like all of his what's coming out of his mouth right now.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
like it.
yeah. His strategy is on point, but in terms of the social aspect
Mm,
of the game, that's something that he just keeps faltering with. That's the thing that's going to, no matter what move he makes in the game, that's the thing
yeah.
that's always going to set him back here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so then we get a conversation again between Danielle and Chiara, where again they talk about wanting to keep the women safe. She tells Chiara that she had a conversation with Gerry and told him not to do the obvious move. She said, sometimes it's better to be with the minority than the majority, and in this case, she is talking about the fact that she thinks that Jason will be the one going up. I do think that there is this kind of uh, we talked last week about Jason and how he's really kind of loved by everyone, and how people aren't really catching on to him, but I think people are kind of at least catching on to the fact that he is a big social threat. So I see.
But where did that come from? Like, what happened with that? Because when they said it early, when Danielle said it earlier, I didn't understand, and so even now, I don't understand what Jason has done to be on anyone's radar at this point.
It's literally just the fact that he is a nice guy that nobody
Mm,
wants to go after.
mm,
People like, I know Roddy had mentioned on the live feeds and Gerry had mentioned on the live feeds. Basically that, this is a guy that is gonna be hard to beat at the end because everyone just likes him so much, and so we have to get him out as soon as we can. But I don't necessarily think that there was any serious discussion about getting him out. There was some discussion about getting him on the block, but I don't think that necessarily would have resulted in his eviction this
well,
week.
yeah. Okay. 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 Hmm.
Um, yeah, so basically we get a DR from Chiara after this conversation saying, Jerry's not a part of the group anymore, so he could put any of us up,
And
which is very true. Then, we had also talked about Roddy and people kind of starting to clock him a little bit. I think Marcellus was one of the first ones to really say
mm-hmm,
something last week.
mm-hmm.
And so he asks Jerry, he's like, why aren't you
Like
putting
why not? Hmm.
why aren't you getting rid of this guy and taking a shot like that? And basically I think that I think that he is considering it at this point, but I think he's considering it in a situation where he would put him up next to Eric. I don't necessarily I don't necessarily remember if Jerry had a rebuttal to
I was like,
Marcellus's.
because I don't remember his response either. That's why I was tuning in to see what you were about to say here, but I don't remember his response. I remember Marcellus asking because I was in agreement because I was like, if it's my HOHL, I probably would put up Roddy and Josh. And so I was like,
Right.
I was very curious, like what was his response going to be, but I don't remember hearing it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that we got a solid answer on that. It could be that he didn't want to take a direct shot, and so
Mm,
he, thought go with the lesser of two evils here, but that is something we don't get confirmation
yeah.
on. But that does lead us into the nomination ceremony, and we we get Jerry coming up before the house and saying, I hated doing this. I'm old enough to be your father, but this is the game we have to play. And we basically end up getting Lisa and Eric nominations, and we get an explanation from Gerry where he says, "It's a game, it's not for nothing. We've been playing chess. I have a chance strategically to remove the queen and a knight, and simply in terms of chess moves, this is my best ploy and nothing more. Nothing personal at all." So, how are we feeling about this choice?
I, I'm not a fan of his statement
Okay.
in regards to her being a queen, but like at all. So just to be clear, however, I am okay with this because you are yet again breaking up the duo. Like one of them has to go, and so I'm all for this. I'm all for these two being on. Again, would not have been my choice because I would have definitely put up Roddy and Josh.
Yeah.
Definitely would have put up those two. But I'm all for this for his game. I'm all for it. All for it. What about you?
I am for it. I think that it doesn't really matter. I think I do agree that Roddy would probably have been the better target for the week, but you know it you are at least getting rid of one duo, like you said, and this is the best way to do it. Put them both up
Both up.
next
Mm-hmm.
to each other. There's so many times that people don't do that, and so I definitely do not think that that is a bad choice here.
Like, come on, Gerry, shaking stuff up.
Right. Yeah. I did think it was interesting that he called Eric a knight. He's not the king. He's a knight.
You picked up on
So
that. You
I
picked up on that.
I wondered if Eric picked up on that. So,
Because I'm like,
but
cause who's the king? Who's the king?
right.
Like who's okay?
But so you don't think Lisa's the queen?
I do not. If anybody, Danielle, if you're talking about the queen of this game or the
Right.
house, and maybe Gerry just hasn't picked up on it yet, and it's just something that we as the audience know. But I'm like, Danielle is definitely a threat.
Right.
She is moving places and pieces all across the house. And so I'm like, cause she has the woman vote, like she would legitimately has a leg to stand on there, because she's just like all the women, are pretty much voted out. So you have
Right.
an argument there. You have this alliance with Jason, which of course nobody knows about. But I'm like, she's also friendly with just about everybody for the most part, except for Lori. And so I'm like, she's a threat. She's a threat. So yeah. Now King, I have no idea who the king. Like I don't I don't view any of them the men thus far as you know playing chess. Let me say that. So yeah. But Danielle is definitely she is playing chess for sure, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I could see Roddy in the king position.
Mm.
I could also see Jason. I feel like Jason and Danielle right now are kind of running the show a little bit.
Mm.
So yeah, we finished the episode with some DRs and just your basic, like, I hate that I'm against my partner, and this sucks and I feel so guilty, and we get Chiara calling it a tragic love story. So it's
I missed that. It's just
tons
so
of
dramatic.
melodrama
It's
going on
just
here.
so dramatic. I missed that. Oh man, I wish I would have heard that. Wow. Wow.
So so then we open episode 13 with Lisa basically running off to the bathroom after nominations, and we've got Eric coaxing her back out, they go into the high rent district bedroom to
So,
talk with.
but
Yeah,
wait a sec. Wait 1 second.
yes.
Why is there a camera in the bathroom?
So the way that they explain it in season 1 of Big Brother is we're putting cameras everywhere, and they say we will not record people that are in the bathroom unless they start using it as like a meeting place. So,
Mm.
because they didn't want to have a situation where that's the one room where there are no cameras or microphones. So then people are like running off
Sneaking
to
to that.
have,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, to have these conversations that production can't hear.
Because I've never seen them have a camera like over the toilet. And so that was one of the first things that I put down. And I was like, I'm used to seeing it in the bathroom in the larger area where you can even see the shower. Like, so I'm like, I'm used to seeing that. But in the HOH room, in their bathroom, I've never seen a camera in the HOH bathroom, nor have I ever seen one within the main bathroom, not the toilet room. And so I was like, that was out, that took me out. I was like, that should not happen. I was like, that
Yeah,
should be illegal. Like, if anything, that should be illegal. Like, what the hell? You know?
yeah.
So,
Most of the time, let me tell you, there've been some footage that production has gotten their
mm,
hands on that they have done some things with, but nothing in the bathroom. So
yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but you're right.
no, you're
So Eric comes into the bathroom or the toilet area to get Lisa and pull her out, and they have this big thing.
right. Yeah, yeah. So they go on into the bedroom. They talk with Chiara, and they basically all agree that Gerry's days are numbered. They're
Yeah.
appalled that he wouldn't go after Josh, who has been terrorizing him for 3 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile, we get Josh and Marcellus commending Gerry in the HOH room. You know, good on them. He did a very good job. It was very butch, very manly, like
Yes.
Marcellus last week. Uh,
I'm just nothing to say.
all right. So we get a conversation on one side of the house where Danielle, Chiara, and Lisa are talking about the women got to stick together. We're going to make it through this game. And then on the other side of the house, we have Roddy telling Eric that he's definitely going to be safe. And, Eric says, I'm pretty sure I'm safe. All I need is 3 votes. And even if there's a tie, I know that Gerry wants Lisa gone.
Yeah, yeah. I was shocked that he said that this early on. Like, okay, Eric, okay, we see you. Like, like we knew it, but we see it now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, usually, in a case like Amy's last week, I think it was pretty much solidified from the time that she went on the block that she would be the one going home. But here it is a situation where you can't be making declarations that you're safe
Mm-hmm.
when the veto hasn't even been played yet.
Yep.
It just kind of I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the men don't realize that there's this group of people that are kind of rising from the ashes here to
And that's on the outside.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
so um then we get a conversation between Gerry and Chiara, and he says after the first couple of easy nominations I had to make a hard choice, and we get a DR from Chiara where she's like, I don't like him, but I'd rather stay on his good
Good
side,
sides.
which
Yeah.
is something that I like from her because I don't feel like I've gotten much insight into whether or not she knows how to play this
Play
game
the
at all.
Agree. I'm in agreement with you, and I'm also in agreement with her because you do need to stay on his good side. But yeah, I'm in agreement because we haven't seen that from her other than riding Roddy's coattail.
Right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's good that she is not completely outside of the game with her relationship there. We get a conversation with Roddy and Danielle. They say that they trust in Gerry's good character. Danielle still thinks that Jason could potentially go up as a renom. And then we get Lisa into this conversation, and Roddy, or actually, it's Lisa that makes a very interesting kind of statement about how she doesn't believe that lying and manipulating deserves to win. She thinks the good hearted people should be the ones at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Delusional
what?
is real. Delusion is real. Like I don't know what she is thinking right now. I don't. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's a game. It is a game, but you're now separating all of the negativity that you have done. And actually what you said earlier, the people with power, when you no longer have it, you began to try to put it as me or us versus them. And that's what she's trying to do. And I think it's pathetic. Like I just think it's pathetic. It is. It was for no reason.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that has kind of been like, even before this week, I feel like that was kind of the prevailing narrative for the season, that there is a certain way to play the game,
Mm,
like even when I believe when Marcellus was HOH and Roddy had that conversation with him about, my word is my bond, and if I'm lying to you right now,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
ineligible to win the game. And
Yeah.
so I do think that there is kind of this high and mighty energy that is kind of radiating throughout the house there. But to your point, I think it's kind of elevated with the fact that, once people are no longer in power, they have to kind of start rationalizing why they're in the situation that they're in. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's never their fault. It's
I was
always
about. It
somebody
is
else's.
never a self accountability. Never a self accountability. Never. Of course not. Of course not.
So from that, we get Danielle and Roddy encouraging her to talk to Gerry. We have Danielle saying that it can do more good than it can do harm. And so, we haven't seen Lisa make an effort to talk to him up to this point. So she goes up there and she is trying to pitch Josh as a renom. She says she finally wants a good person to win this game. And, Gerry tells her, this is just a chess move. I'm just buying myself a week
Mm-hmm.
because I know there's enough people that want Josh out that will be able to get him out
Yeah.
next week.
So I did mention I actually wrote that down as well in regards to him, another week. And I'm like, I'm with Gerry on this. I'm with his logic on this. But also that still honors the commitment that he made to Josh. So I was like that you honored that. But I'm like, also Josh has been, I don't know if it's editing, but Josh has been pretty quiet this week. Like he's really been calm this week. And so I'm very curious to know if that's intentional on Josh's part or if it's truly editing.
From what I saw from the live feeds, I do feel that he was, at least in terms of strategy talks, he was more calmed down and not trying
Mm-hmm.
to push his agenda
Mm-hmm.
as much. And he's still the same old Josh,
Annoying. Okay.
but you know, Jerry's a big boy. He can deal with it for another week. So then we get a conversation between Lisa and Eric where Lisa tells him that Jerry wants the deal of a century, and Eric says to her, "Well, I'll make him that deal, and I'll still get him out next week." Which
Yeah.
I was like, Lisa, come on, like listen to what he's saying. Get
She's
back in there.
yeah. She's so I don't know what I don't know. I don't get her. I'm still baffled that she wanted head of household. Like I don't get her. I don't get her. And maybe she's
Right.
just smitten with him and she doesn't know like what to do and how to think now. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I don't get her right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's I think socially we see her getting along with pretty much everybody. I think it's just one of those things where you're in a showmance and it's like that's all you're focused on, and
Hmm.
so it's something very rare. Something that we don't see a lot is these couples broken up and then having one of them have to go on and see whether or not there's any potential for them in the game. And so I think that this is it's going to be interesting to see where Lisa kind of goes from here.
Yeah, agree.
So then we there's no good way to transition to this. We get a segment about Danielle grinding her teeth.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Now that was another thing with editing because I was like, because it was not that loud. I could not. I think it was happening, but there's no way in hell like the way they were making it sound. That was yeah.
I yeah, I don't know. I wrote down that those like wind up teeth that
Yeah.
they sell at Halloween stores. That's
Hmm.
what it sounded like.
It did. That's why I was like, I don't think that was her. I really feel like that was something that was an audio. What is it called? When they dub over the audio.
Yeah,
Like that's what I feel, and I could be totally wrong. I have no idea who the hell this woman is, but I'm just that's what it sounded like to me. Like it did not seem real.
yeah, it sounded because at first I had no idea what that even was, and then they had to
Um,
point out that
mhm,
it was Danielle grinding her teeth, and I was
yeah,
just like, that I would rather deal with the snoring from
mm,
Gerry than
the
deal
teeth.
with that.
The I don't want any of it. Like leave me alone. I'll sleep by myself.
There you go. There you go. So thankfully we get that over relatively quickly, and then we get a conversation between Lisa and Eric where they're talking about the veto competition.
Mhm.
Lisa tells him that she would veto him. He's very touched by that. Would he do the same for her? I doubt it,
Doubt it.
but
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. So we very much quickly transition into the veto competition, and we have Gerry saying, this is the first veto competition where someone who really wants it could change the game, and I do think that's true. I
Yeah.
think in the weeks that have passed, we really haven't had a situation where anybody should use the veto, including the week that Gerry did use the veto. But here, as things are kind of starting to ramp up in the game, this does make for an interesting competition here. So basically, we have this competition called Turnover, and they're essentially all on this checkered checkerboard where their starting position is on one of the many veto symbols that are on this board, and then each one of them has to move one square at a time. They're able to move in any direction on the game board. Once they've moved, they're supposed to flip over the square they were previously standing on, and when they are able to, or no longer able to step on a square because they're all turned over, then the last person that is on a blue square ends up winning the power of veto.
My stomach.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is an interesting veto competition. An interesting concept. They do bring this one back.
Really?
They do. Oh yeah. It plays a big part in upcoming season. So it is a very, I guess, popular one.
I did not like it. I did not like it. Like it wasn't complicated, but it was just like, okay, like I don't know. It didn't. I wasn't a fan. It did not. It didn't tickle my fancy. Like that was just not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine for me. I don't know how much strategy there goes into it. Like the main thing you have to do is just make sure you're moving away from everybody. They're all moving towards each other, so I think if you're moving the furthest away from the group, then you probably have more moves there, but I'm not quite sure. But that is what Chiara ends up doing, which is why she ends up winning the power of veto. I thought it was really interesting that she went for it.
Was she though? I feel like it was an accident.
You think it was an accident?
I really do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I really do.
I mean, that seems like a fair point. Yeah, I mean, that seems like a fair point. She could have just stumbled into the win there. I know that Danielle and Josh were definitely gunning for it.
Definitely.
So Chiara wins. So good on her for that. I think that this is a terrible position for her to be in, but you got to play the cards you're dealt. So next we get a America's Choice. So this is another fan vote where America is able to vote for the house guests that they want to receive a letter from home, and we get a segment kind of leading up to this vote where they're all talking about what they missed the most from home, and there wasn't anything too interesting here other than the fact that Danielle is looking for some attention.
Yeah, she is. She is. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. Yep, she said it.
Yeah. Good on her to be that young and that in love.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm sure her husband says hi to her every month.
At least after the show. At least immediately after the show. I'm sure. I am sure. But yeah, she's obviously hot and bothered, and she's needing some attention from her husband. So let her have it, because all the other girls are getting some attention in the house. So hey, yeah, she needs.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I kind of going through the live feeds, one of the things that was kind of interesting is you had people like Roddy and Eric basically saying, nobody vote for me because I want to make sure that Danielle gets it. And so you got these two knights in shining armor just sacrificing themselves for the greater good. So
that was sweet.
Good for them. It doesn't work, but good for them.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So Before we get the result of that vote, though, we get a conversation between Eric and Gerry, and Eric tells Gerry that Josh will make any deal that he needs to make. He ensures Gerry that if Josh goes up, he'll do whatever it takes to get him out of here.
Yeah.
And, we've got Gerry saying that he is afraid of retaliation, and that is the reason why he doesn't want to go after Josh here. This is, a conversation that is not too interesting, except for the fact that Josh is listening in
Yeah,
the entire time. And so this kind of puts him on the warpath into getting Eric out.
yeah. I'm glad that they're still bringing it up, because it is, again, I'm still like, Josh should have been on the block.
Right. Yep.
Like, he really should have been on the block, even no matter whoever you put on there. I think Josh should have been on the block. So, especially given what he's done. And again, I understand Gerry, and he's just like, I let somebody else do it. Everybody else sees he's a bad guy. Somebody else to do it. I'm just by myself another week. I understand it, but I also am very glad that they keep bringing this up. Like, let's remind you, like, Josh is not the best person.
Right.
Like, let me remind you. So I am glad it's coming up consistently. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
me too. I mean, yeah, he's still a problem, and it's kind of like if you end up surviving this week, you got to make sure that target is primed for the week following. So that is good on Eric there.
Yeah, but Eric started to do, I guess, a spiral is probably what I would call it, because he was like, he was going to intimidate Josh or
Right,
something.
yep,
I was like, come
he
on,
did say
dude.
that.
Come on, like, don't do that. You don't have to do that. If anything, rally against him with the rest of the house, but you don't have to go around intimidating. But, like, don't do that. Or maybe he just chose the wrong words, but he legitimately said it. So
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that too, and I was thinking, okay, what are you gonna get him to self-evict? Like,
like,
that's not good. That's a bad thing to do. But yeah, that was just a very kind of weird comment for him to make. So Josh goes to tell Danielle about the conversation, and I think Chiara's also in the room too. And he's like, Chiara, you cannot use this veto because you realize who's gonna go up if you do it, right? It's gonna be Roddy. And so that kind of gets her wheels turning a little bit. And yeah, so good on Josh there.
I mean, it was this great move.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, because I don't necessarily think that Chiara would use the veto. I do think that Roddy would have enough sense to kind of make sure if she was considering it at all that
She was earlier though. She wanted to pull Lisa down.
right.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
So she was
Uh
considering it, but I'm with you. I'm glad. I'm pretty sure Roddy probably, he's not, like you say, he's not stupid. So I'm pretty sure they did have that conversation. But I am glad Josh brought that up to her.
yeah, me too, because I mean that's the only other move he can make
Yeah.
is just making sure that he is not the renom there, and that no ideas are entertained about making him the renom there. Then we get the results of the America's Choice, and Jason is the one that ends up getting a
Yes.
letter. I think this was a sweet segment here. I'm glad that he got the letter, and I liked the way that they edited it. I liked having him start to read the letter, and then it cuts in with actual
The family.
the footage of his family and
Mm,
them reading the letter. I thought that was a very interesting thing
yeah.
that they did there. Yeah, they sent a lot of camera crews out to these
To
different families.
they do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's something that they don't do as much anymore. But it's interesting that they used to do that a lot more.
And I'm like, and it could not have been that cheap. I'm like, because nowadays, like your cameras are probably smaller. You're able to do things a little, now. But then,
Right.
like, it could not have been that cheap. Even if it's just a crew member, a crew of two people. Like, I'm like, you couldn't. It could not have been that cheap and easy. So,
Yeah, and I think nowadays, with social media and everything, I feel like they don't want to put those families at the forefront as much anymore. So,
mm,
but yeah, it is very interesting that they would kind of spend the money on sending out a crew every week to do these different packages here. So this is followed up with Chiara approaching Gerry about what to do. Gerry kind of tells her point blank, "If you do this, I'm putting up Roddy." It is surprisingly the thing that Lisa should have said to him in week one is, "Hey, if you do this, I'm putting up,
mm,
XYZ." Um,
mm,
so it's interesting that,
mm.
he's learned enough to know how to really play this HOH here.
He's doing it.
But like you said earlier, then we get a conversation between Chiara and Roddy where he is kind of talking her down. She wants to use the veto. He doesn't want that to happen because he thinks he's going to go up. And then this starts to get into a conversation about how Chiara wants Lisa to stay, Roddy wants Eric,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the big question there is whether or not whether or not Chiara is going to kind of acquiesce to what it is that he wants or make a move for her own game. I did think what was interesting about this conversation is all of the points that he was making were about him and
What?
how her making this choice would affect him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even trying to convince her, like,
Mm-mm.
good reason. I mean, it's a good reason that he would stay in and then she'd have an ally, but that was the only thing he had here, and I thought that was very telling.
It was very. So I even wrote that down. Like, really, I was like, dude, like you have no idea how you sound. And I'm like, and I'm really hoping that she goes back to at least hear this. And
Yeah,
so, and I'm like, I don't care how you edited that. Like, this is what you've said. Like, period. And so I was like, because one of the things he kept saying that Eric must stay, Eric must stay. And so I was just like, I'm glad she had a small sense to say, how the hell is this going to help me? Like she asked him,
right.
just like how keeping him is going to be good for me. How is that going to be good for me? Like make it make sense. So yeah, I'm glad. I was happy for that. Like that conversation, like got me back into this episode. Like,
Right.
so,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because, you have someone like Kiara who we haven't really seen play the game, and we really haven't gotten an insight into how she views things because she's been so focused on this showmance here.
yeah.
And she's finally in a position of getting a little bit of power here. And it's like, okay, you know there's 3 women left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know that this showmance is not lasting past, you know, 2 months outside of this house. Like, make make the decision that is gonna reap you the most benefits, and here she just falls hook, line, and sinker for Roddy, and
Would you have
don't
used it?
well, so here's the thing. I mean, Lisa is on the block, Lisa is one of her allies. Like I do realize that when Tanya was in the house, she was closer to Tanya, but like that's still somebody that you did have a relationship with. So
Yeah.
I do feel like I do feel like it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world for her to
Mm,
take Lisa off of the block here. That being said, someone like Gerry is still very much dealing with the after effects of making that same choice in week one. So it is possible that it would have just been better to leave things the
alone.
same here, which ultimately she does. And,
Mm-hmm.
we have Lisa and Eric saying they're not mad. They realize that whoever ends up staying is going to be seen uh, as less of a threat. And Lisa makes an interesting comment where she says, if Eric leaves, he will take my heart with him, and I will be playing this game heartless. And when I'm heartless, I can get pretty nasty.
Like, show up. You should have been doing this since day one. Hell, it's too much money on the line.
I, I agree with you, but I like that it's showing up now.
Mhm.
It may be too little, too late here, but you
We'll
never
find
know.
out. We'll
We will
see.
find out. So we are now at the eviction episode for the week, and we open with Eric saying, I'm not going to campaign to stay. I believe there's work being done to get me to stay, and I don't want anything to do with that. If it's between me and Lisa gone, I want Lisa. Which, like, I can't fault him for it,
I
I guess.
can't.
Like,
Mm,
it's either her or you, and so I guess it needs to be her. But I did think it was kind of interesting that similar to what he said when he was put on the block, that he had so much faith in him being safe that he was like, oh, there are people doing it for me, and I don't want to have anything to do with that. And you know, I mean, if you want to stay, then you actually have to make the effort to stay.
you better tell somebody, because I don't know what he was thinking in that regards. That, yeah, it's silly.
Um, so, Eric thinks he has the guys. Lisa thinks that she has the women and Marcellus. And we get some insight into at least what Danielle is thinking, where her head is at. Because she says that she wants Eric to go. She thinks
Mhm.
that having him out of the game is going to weaken Roddy's stronghold here.
Which I actually agree with that. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're not going to take a direct shot, then the second best thing you can do is take away his number two
Number
there.
two. Hmm.
So
His gym bro.
right, right, exactly. His spotter. So there you go. So Marcellus seems to think Chiara is going to vote for Eric to go, and she seems to confirm later in a conversation with Jason that this is not the case. And so we kind of see a situation where now her mindset is kind of starting to shift into, maybe I want Lisa to go, which is a very interesting kind of mindset from where she started the week. I know we had talked in Roddy's HOH week about how it seemed like Chiara was very much kind of running the show here. But in this situation, at least with her vote, it seems like Roddy has just as much influence on her.
Also editing. I'm stuck on the editing.
Also editing. Yeah.
Also editing, and I feel like because you're right, that's a huge transformation. Because it
Mhm.
definitely it showed her in a light last week, like or in his doing his HOH that she had all the power, and so it's just it's very interesting. But you're right because now she doesn't seem like she doesn't even know how to play the game, and like she's now having this awakening, and so you're absolutely correct. Editing is something else. Some bull.
I don't have the exact timeline on this, but I know that a couple like it was, I think, very apparent to people like Lisa and Danielle that Chiara was starting to turn. She was very much like putting up a front that, she was still with them and everything, but then she was having these other conversations where she was just trash talking Lisa
Oh.
and just very much kind of like belittling Lisa's character in the game, and
Oh
so
wow.
that is a change that slowly starts to happen. Kind of that similar rationalization of like, okay, this is the choice that I have to make, but now I have to rationalize that,
Rationalize it. Mm-hmm.
that choice. So
Oh.
now I think she's a terrible person and needs to go out of the game.
That's gonna bite her. Oh, that's gonna bite her. Wow.
Yeah, we will see. And we've got someone like Josh that's really trying to sow dissension between Lisa and Chiara. He's telling Chiara that Lisa hates her, and
Hmm.
so I don't know why she would believe him,
At
but
all. He's not trustworthy.
again, if she had already made up her mind that she was going with Roddy, then anything that you can do to make that choice okay is something that she's gonna do. But then we move back into the studio with Julie Chen as we get our house guests chat with our beloved television host. And so she starts off with Lisa and she asks Lisa, how much did this time that you had together mean to you? And, Lisa says, it was very nice given that one of us will be departing. And then she moves on to Danielle, who is none too thrilled to be on the PB&J diet. Danielle says it was just wrong.
I was just like,
Uh, and then she finishes off with Jason. She says, what was it like getting a letter from home? Jason says, it meant everything. It gave me the strength to keep on fighting. And
yeah,
so I do think what is interesting about this segment is that it seems like Julie spends a lot more time engaging with the house guests
I
than we
agree.
typically
How
get.
I will say I can understand why they would stop it because the conversation almost seems one sided, especially with the like something like the interaction she just had with Danielle. Like it happened so quickly that you really didn't. It wasn't a back and forth.
Right. Yep.
Like it was just up, hated it. That was it. You have no follow up. You have no choice but to kind of move on, and so it comes off kind of weird, and it really almost paints Danielle in a not so good light, in how she responded to that. And so that you get that, but then you may get somebody like Josh who was just a freaking character that says typically would have said some offhanded things to Julie, and so you just don't know what the guest is going to say. So I can understand why they would have taken that portion out, like in the new season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like you said, there's not much here she runs through a lot of
Yeah.
people, but really doesn't get any good material here. And so it's kind of something that it is good that they kind of let quietly go away here. We definitely need the HOH interviews to come
Yes.
back though.
Yes. Yes, we did. I'm champion for that.
So we do get the votes back this week.
Mhm.
Last week we had a unanimous vote, and so we didn't get any of these diary room packages. Did you enjoy having the votes back this week? Was
I did.
you did?
I did. I really, really did. And it actually opened my eyes up to something else, which I'll mention in a second once you start to read the results.
Okay. Do we want to run through the votes? I have them all kind of just in one place all together,
Me
or
too. Your call.
oh, okay. Okay, well, we can go through the votes. The first one up is Josh, and he says Eric clearly sold me out to try to keep Lisa in this house. He tried to degrade our loyalty to each other. It was a telling moment in my relationship with Eric. I vote to evict Lisa, which kind of threw me a little bit. I,
Really?
I yeah, I don't have any greater context for it. It's really hard to kind of see necessarily where the votes are gonna lie. It feels like people kind of stick to their voting blocks, and so things just kind of don't really shift as much there. But I assume that you that this isn't as surprising to you.
Not for Josh. Kiara's
Okay.
vote was the only one that was a surprise to me out of everyone's.
Okay.
But Josh's vote, no, I was not surprised at all. I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised by Josh. Like, I feel like he would probably, if a woman is on the block, he's probably going to always vote for the woman to go. It's just how I feel. That's how I perceive him. Like, yeah, I was not surprised by Josh.
That's fair point. Fair
Yeah.
point. Next up we have Danielle, who says, if Lisa stays in the house, it's good for me because I believe Lisa has a value system that is much more like mine. If Eric stayed in the house, the only good reason is that Eric will go after Josh or Gerry, and that gives me time. I vote to evict Eric, which I think is a very fair point. I don't think there are too many eyes on Danielle right now,
Right now.
that there are a couple of other meat shields that she has in front of her. So, not too surprising there. Next up, we get Roddy, who says, I can't stand the fact that one of my friends is leaving. I mean, I really love Lisa. She's a magnificent person. I've really grown to admire her. She's smart. She's funny. She knows how to really turn a frown upside down. I think she's a really special person. I really have gotten very close to Eric. And for me, to keep Eric in the house, probably above anybody at this point, is beneficial to me. I vote to evict Lisa.
Also in agreement with him on from his perspective, gameplay wise. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got that bromance, and
He
so that
does.
that is definitely one of his strongest relationships in the game. Eric is a person that I think remains loyal to his people through and through.
Agreed. I agree. I see that as well. Yeah.
Um, Next up, we get Marcellus, who says Eric is aesthetically pleasing. He's very live and let live, which I admire a lot. Lisa could probably be one of my friends outside of the house. She initially was one of my favorite people in the house, and then she nominated me for eviction. I forgive the members of the original six, of which Lisa was one, but I can never forget. I vote to evict Eric.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting kind of. I mean, I think he's with the Danielle and Jason contingent, so it makes sense that he doesn't really have any loyalty to
To either
someone
one.
like Eric.
Mm.
Um, and then we get Jason, who says, just watching Eric this week try and turn the table and put Josh into the mix of things gave me a little insight that Eric might do something desperate. Eric could, turn on one of his own, and that's something that's a little scary to have in the house. I vote to evict Eric.
Which is again no surprise because I think that Danielle is, I don't want to say manipulated, but I think she's running the show on that.
Right.
And from her perspective, from Danielle's perspective, she would have been probably within the next week or two, she would have been gone had she not voted to evict Eric. And
Yep.
so, which means in her mind, I need to get Eric out. And same thing, let me get Jason on my side. If I got Marcellus, let me get him on my side as well. Because I think she would have seen, I think she was seeing the writing on the wall. Because I think that the men would have slowly picked off every last one of the women. She probably would have been one of the last to go. But I do think that they would have picked her off.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that is one of the strongest things that we have seen from Danielle this far is that she saw the six crumbling, and it was very easy to see. I think it was pretty transparent,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
she was in a situation where she at least also realized like who was in the power structure and like who was at the bottom, and
Mhm.
in picking up those pieces like Josh and Gerry and then the stragglers like Marcellus.
Yep.
You know,
She's playing chess.
she's playing chess.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and is kind of quietly running the show here. So then we get the final vote, which is Chiara, who says, with Eric and Lisa, it's like I have Lisa as a girl and I'm a girl. She's my age. And then with Eric, it's that he's a guy and
And not a
he's
girl.
not a girl. But we're both in the same state. So we have that bond. Voting either Lisa or Eric just doesn't feel right. I vote to evict Lisa.
Mhm.
And so I think this is even more of an indication that, Chiara's kind of being played by Roddy here, and that she had kind of was really trying to justify the choice that she knew she was going to make here. Because I mean, what the hell is this answer?
It was just so silly. I was just like, this girl, she just, bless her heart. That's all I can say. That's all I can say is bless her heart. Because you're right, she could not rationalize why she was voting for Lisa. She just couldn't. But since we're here, because at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
we're tied up 3-3 for
yep,
Lisa and then 3 for Eric. And so this point is kind of where it's going to go earlier in regards to the results. I think, and you can tell me if I'm far off,
okay.
but I think this was probably the beginning, in talking about Big Brother, but I feel that this was probably about the beginning of giving them a great reason to start doing live evictions. I could only imagine that, watching Gerry's vote, because me as an audience member, I'm like, for the first time watching this, it is very exciting not knowing what Gerry is going to do. And I'm watching this live and I'm not knowing he's the deciding factor at this point. Like, oh my gosh. I could only imagine that the audience was received so well at seeing something like this that it would make you want to start to change how you're doing the votes and kind of come back off of some of these pre-recorded diaries of their votes. It's again my assumption, and that could be completely off.
So I will say that for Big Brother 2 and Big Brother 3 and or let me say this. In the early seasons of Big Brother, they do live votes, but they do them like towards the end, where so it's like final four,
Mm.
final three. Those votes are typically live, and we don't get like the every week live vote until Big Brother All Stars, which is the 7th season.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a shock for me.
Yeah, it's either 6 or 7, but I'm pretty sure it was Big Brother 7, and
Damn.
it definitely wasn't before that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I don't know what the clincher kind of is and why they make that change,
That you.
because I think, like you said, like this is a great moment,
Mm-hmm.
and this is kind of the one that is the first of its kind. I'm trying to remember if there was a tie vote in Big Brother 2. I don't think there was. There was just the final four where you only had one person voting.
Mm.
So it is kind of interesting, though, that they have a situation like this
Yes.
and then they aren't trying to do this even more.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. It's definitely making for some good TV.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the fact that with Gerry in week 1, he gets to be the veto holder and really hold the power for the week when it comes to the choice that's going to be made. And then here as the HOH again having all the power in his hands.
Mm.
I think that makes for some very interesting television there.
Yeah.
So before we get to the vote, though, we do get an HOH interview, and so
Yes.
we do get some conversation between Julie and Gerry, and Julie starts out by asking, "You were virtually ignored since the first week when you went against the group and used the POV. How did it feel to win HOH last Thursday?" And Gerry responds by saying, "Winning HOH was a bit of retribution. It seems interesting to me that I've been placed in a position in the game to make a major impact on the way things are going. I think I got it at a fairly crucial time in the game where I could play something strategically. Whether it plays to my advantage, we don't know yet, but we'll see how it goes." And I do think he's right that it came at just the right time for Gerry. I know at the end of last week we were talking about how it seemed like they were setting up Gerry to potentially be a target for this week, and then he ends up winning HOH against the guy that he ultimately sends out the door. So I think that yeah, he
Yeah.
got his retribution.
But so I will. Yeah, this damn true. I didn't even think of it that way. But the diary room with the head of household and this conversation, this segment with Julie.
Yeah.
Okay. So the problem that I'm having with this still, I feel like they're not giving us any juicy stuff.
Mhm. Right.
like the head of household. I'm like I want more details into their frame of thinking. Like his answer, even there, it seems so poised. It seems so mechanical. And so I'm
Right.
just like, I don't. It didn't seem human to me. And so I'm just like, I wanted to see more into his mindset of like, how are you thinking? How are you feeling in the house right now? And we just don't get it. And I'm just like, and she keeps reiterating each week, like, hey, no one can hear you. You can speak candidly, like, let's go, like, here's my question. And it's just, I feel like we're not getting what we need from them.
I
Like
hear
I want,
you. Oh no, go ahead.
I want to hear him just say, like, it feels damn good, like, like I'm gonna,
Right.
like
Right.
that's what I want to hear, and I'm not getting it.
Yeah, I hear you. I do wonder if there's a bit of worry about what people can hear, and regardless of what Julie's
Oh,
saying. So I mean, I don't I don't think so, but maybe that has something to do with the
To
fact
play
that
with.
he's, kind of keeping it more reserved. I think in terms of something that I was thinking about was in terms of the questions being asked is, there's only so much that they can show on the television show. So I wonder if the questions are meant to be generic so as not to like
Give you too
invite
much.
them to give information that
Mm.
hasn't been depicted on the show.
Well, that
So
sucks.
it does. It does. And, because, yeah, I mean, we've talked about how that's what these segments should be. They should be giving us more insight into the things that the show is not showing us. And I don't think that's a bad thing to give us more of that information. So, but then she ends the conversation by saying, "Have your conversations with Eric and Lisa made you reevaluate your decision?" And he said, "It only made me reevaluate in who I would personally vote for if it comes down to a tie tonight. I do regret putting them up for a nomination, only in the sense that I'm very, very fond of them. But this game requires you to make decisions that are strategic, not based on feeling." Um, so we basically come back from the commercial break to getting that tiebreaker decision. We have Julie telling these people, "Hey, it's a 3-3 tie. Gerry, you're up." And I believe he stands up and he says, "I'm sorry, this is a game, but Eric, I vote to evict you.
Get out of here.
Get on out of
Which was
here."
a good move for Gerry. I do think between the two, they were up there. I think that was a good move for him. I really, really do. You had no alliance with him anyway. I'm like, and not to mention the head of household. It was literally down to the two of you, and so even more of a reason. You're obviously some type of threat. Some type of threat. Like, I have the opportunity. Let's get you out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about, Eric and Roddy are buddy buddy. He's probably got Roddy's ear more than Lisa does. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, you're definitely getting rid of the stronger player.
Yep. Yep.
So we go into Eric's interview with Julie, and she starts out by asking him if he's shocked to be sitting there. And he says, "I was put up under the impression that Gerry wanted Lisa out, and when the veto wasn't used again, so much had happened in the last week that anything could have happened. I said my piece, and I'm sure I probably could have said some things that probably scared Gerry. I can
Mm-hmm.
pretty much guarantee that that's why I am sitting here right now." She follows that up with asking whether or not he thinks that the romantic relationship that he had with Lisa hurt him. And he says, "Well, of course, for strategical purposes, I would say that it didn't help me as much as it should have. But as I've said before, it's nothing that I would take back." Yeah, there's really nothing else here. Obviously he wouldn't have done anything differently. Gerry disappointed him because he
Mm.
doesn't think that Jerry's being himself. And I
She
think,
did ask him
yeah,
if he was rooting for Lisa
right,
or Roddy.
right,
And so I definitely found it interesting because I would have swore he would have been rooting for Roddy, but
right.
he is rooting for Lisa to win. So I'm shocked at this.
I think he might be a little bit smarter than Roddy and, realizes how much he's said, "I want Lisa to be the one to go out."
Oh,
So
did he? That's what he said.
hasn't he? I mean, he was saying throughout the week that, if Lisa's got to go, she's got to go. So
He did say that
he,
multiple times.
so he's probably rehabbing his image here a little bit. He knows
Gotcha.
it. He knows she's gonna.
Fair point. Because she did ask him, Julie asked him, doing this, if he felt she was the one.
Right.
Did you catch that? Did you
Yes.
get
Yes, I did.
And I think he was like, she's like great for the moment or something like that. And then he had to go back and read.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably right. He probably is trying to do damage control.
Yeah. He was like, she's the one for now.
For
And,
now. Then
like,
he was like, oh, I realized how that sounds on live TV. Hold on.
So
Oh, Jesus.
yeah. Eric is gone, or is he? But before we get to that, we get our HOH competition.
Yes.
And so it's essentially bowling. It's called gutter ball. Whoever gets their ball closest to the gutter at the other end of the lane without it going in ends up winning here. And it wasn't until this very moment that I realized that Chiara has had a good week, because she wins the power of veto.
Oh, yeah.
And then she follows that up with an HOH win right here. And man, I mean, oh, go ahead.
I'm like, what is she gonna? I will say I enjoyed this game. I actually liked this competition. I felt like it was a fair competition.
Yeah.
It wasn't, overly done. You didn't have to think too much. It wasn't too physical. It was fair, straight to the point. Here you go. And so I really enjoyed this game. So I wanted to make sure I say that. And I don't care if she won or not. That didn't matter. But I'm now very interested to know what, of course, is she and Roddy, because he's going to help her. What are they going to do? So this I literally wrote it down. What will they do? What will they do now? So way to go, Chiara. Oh, Chiara.
Yeah, it's something, all right. And yeah, couldn't have come at a better time for her after stabbing Lisa in the back, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good job, Chiara, and we'll see what happens next week. So we come back from commercial break to find out that there is a new twist in the game. Remember all of those people that we just evicted? Well, one of them is going to have a chance to get back into the game, and they have been sequestered this entire time all over the world. Like, we're talking Mexico, we are talking the Caribbean. I'm guessing this is the thing.
Exactly. Come on. Yes. Because I was just like, what the fuck kind of money are you guys spending on sending these people all across the country? And the camera people are there with you as well. Or at least for the segment that we saw here.
Right.
Like, what the hell? And like, what? Like, there's like Big Brother would not do that now. I'm like, and then you're in multiple countries. So it's not like all of you guys are in Mexico and you're just on different sides of Mexico. You are in multiple countries. Like, what kind of money? I just gotta know. I want to know. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, this is bonkers to even imagine that somebody approved for you to send all of these people across like multiple places. It makes zero sense to me. Zero.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know what would compel them to do this. They it's the infancy of the game, and so this is at a point in time where they're still trying to.
But what for what?
Right, for what? Yeah, it doesn't make any. Just to show us like a 5-second video clip that like they've been hiding out the whole time
of Tanya boobs on the beach. I mean, what was the point? Sorry, I know I sound very agitated.
Right. No, I completely get it. Like, um, when we do eventually get a jury house, it's a similar kind of situation where I remember the first jury house they had. They spared no expense. So, um,
Okay.
if, for those first couple of seasons, they were really trying. And again, for what reason, who knows? I did think something that was very interesting was they said in one breath they're saying that they've been secluded the whole time. And then you have like Tanya on the beach, or you have Amy like at a club
Well,
dancing.
yeah, yeah, eating cheese at some
Mhm.
buffet. It's a, yeah, yeah,
Which, like, to be fair, I don't think anybody is watching Big Brother internationally at this time, but I thought like that wouldn't be a great thing today. Like Big Brother fans take their show very seriously, and so if there's any production interference here, that would be something that people would be calling out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. So we are going to have an interesting week ahead of us as we
Mhm.
have got Chiara as the new head of household. We've got one person entering the game at the end of the week, and it is going to be very interesting to see how things shake out. So I know that you don't know the mechanism by which someone is entering the house, but who do you think is the person that's going to return to the game?
Either Lori, um,
Lori, Tanya, Amy, Eric.
oh no, I was just thinking,
Oh, oh,
either Lori or Eric.
okay,
And right now, I am probably, and only because of the drama.
okay.
Only, and I think production is probably going to rig something up, but only because of the drama. So, because I forgot about the whole issue with Danielle and Lori until they played the cutscene,
Right.
and so I was just like, why would you bring that up? You know, if it's not going to play a part later on or something, or you're trying to build something up toward this. And then you also have this with Eric and Lisa and how that's going to affect them, whether she comes out of the house or whatever happens within these next few weeks. And so I definitely believe, in my opinion, it will be between Lori and Eric to come back in. I really do. I don't see Amy coming back. I don't see Tanya coming back. I just don't see those two coming in.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well,
You, what you got?
I already know.
Prediction. Oh shit. That's no fair. That is no fair. How do you already know?
I've seen the season.
Oh well, of course you have. Of course, of course. I thought you was coming back like fresh. You just don't remember anything about the season. This is no fair. That is no fair. There's no. Am I close? Am I close?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
Do you think that's fun for me? No, there are certain things that I either don't remember about the season, or when I say that I don't remember things about the season, I'm lying. So
Oh wow, wow! Tell the truth. I got it. I tell you, I
no,
forgot. I forgot how good you were at Big Brother. I forgot, and that is I would be the first one voted out. Oh my gosh!
in terms of things that are coming up, there are times where I'm having to not show my hand there, but
Gotcha.
yeah. So
Got it. I forgot.
you'll
I
have to
forgot.
stay tuned to figure it out.
Got
So
it.
that is what we have for week 4 of Big Brother 3. Any final thoughts?
N- Um, I'm getting irritated with these duels. I don't like two people running the house, which is
Mhm.
why I originally had a problem with Josh trying to run someone else's HOH. I had a problem with Roddy and Kiara because it's a problem when you have two people trying to run the house, and so you're losing sight of the game. And so I don't know what's about to happen now, now that she has it, but I really want them to break up all of this mess. So that's what I need to happen. And obviously these two are not going anywhere. So obviously, but we need to break this up.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, interested to see where the week goes, and yeah, I mean we've got Chiara in power right now, so
Mhm.
who knows? She might make a choice that saves her and
Oh, oh, oh.
Roddy some time. Who
Mhm.
knows in the upcoming weeks here? But yeah, I'm very much enjoying things. I feel like every week the game has kind of started moving in an upward trend. I feel like there's
Yeah.
been a natural progression in the game, so things have not remained stagnant at any point in the season so far, and I am very excited to see where we're going. So, with that, do we want to plug all of our stuff?
Let's plug away.
All right. Well, I will start off with you can follow me on Twitter at Noah Massey. You can also follow me at noahmassey.bsky.social on Blue Sky. And then I will let you plug your stuff before I plug our show stuff.
Awesome. So if you would like to be inspired, follow me at Inspired by Jimmy L on all social media platforms. Yay.
All right, short and sweet. Um,
Always.
and then if you want to go ahead and follow the Jury House podcast on our social media platforms, we are at thejuryhouse.bsky.social on Blue Sky and at the Jury House podcast on Instagram, and then at house_jury on Twitter. That is where you can find all of us, but make sure that if you like what we are doing here, that you join us next time as we invite someone else back into the jury house as we send one of these jury members right back into the Big Brother house. All right, until then, see you.
See ya.